Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and today we're on basically our history channel because we have the pleasure to have Dr. Carmaletta Williams, who's over the Kansas City Mid-America Black Archives here in Kansas City. Welcome to the show, Dr. Williams.
Well, thank you, Carlos. Thanks for the invitation.
Hey, Dr. Williams, as I like to do with all our shows, tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we get into the what you're doing with the archives, where you was born, what schools you went to. Give them a little background about yourself.
Okay, I'm a Kansas City girl, born and raised in the old 54th Street neighborhood. I'm actually the fourth. My great grandmother, Marie Jane Taylor, was an Exoduster. She was born in Topeka, Kansas, when her parents joined the Exoduster movement after emancipation. And she was there, and my great grandfather, Frank James Taylor, was from Alabama, Seal, Alabama, in Russell County. And he hoboed up this way. He and his sisters, he had three sisters, and they had been orphaned. So they would follow the logging camps. And he would work out in the trees with the men, and the girls would do domestic work. And one of them, Blanche, worked for a pharmacist who raped her. And when he raped her, Papa killed him. So he jumped on a train and ended up in Topeka, where my great grandmother met him as teenagers. And she asked her mother, could he come and take a bath and eat some food? And she said yes. And that, as they say, is how the story begins. So they had 15 kids, and they left Topeka prior to these 15 kids to come to Kansas City. There was a lot of work in the mines and rock quarries around here. So they moved to 53rd and Walden, which you can't access unless you go down Bell Fountain between 53rd and 54th Street and take the road back to their house. And um, so my grandmother, um, Pinky Blanche Taylor Waters Blue, was born in that neighborhood. My mother, Doris Rebecca Waters Warner Robinson Grant, was born on 54th Street, and I was born on 54th and Chestnut. My grandmother was the midwife. She delivered almost all the babies in that area, including me and my sibling, my older brother, and my cousins. So, but it was a wonderful place to grow up. We still have reunions, the old 54th Street neighborhood. They have a Facebook page. My old church, I belong to Willis Chapel AME Church. And the old Willis Chapel, the second Willis Chapel, actually the third Willis Chapel, was the Phyllis Wheatley School. The first Willis Chapel was a tent that was pitched by my great grandfather, his sons, and Mr. Isaiah and others in the neighborhood. And then Edna Isaiah gave us basement where she was going to build a house. And that was the second Willis Chapel. The third was the Phyllis Wheatley School. And now we're right across the parking lot. But it was a wonderful place to be from. I knew every single person who lived in the neighborhood. I felt completely safe at all the time. We could walk, we could ride our bikes, we could skateboard, and we always knew somebody was looking out for us, largely because they hollered at us, and they would tell us to behave and tell us to stop doing things and tell us they're going to tell my grandmother. But I always felt love. I felt encouraged. It was a beautiful, beautiful place to live. And then the South Midtown Freeway displaced many of those people, including my grandparents, took their houses and still didn't put the freeway through for 30 years. But that's where I grew up. I went to Southeast High School. I got my bachelor and master's degrees from UMKC and my PhD from KU. And so I've had many careers. I worked in radiation therapy in a bank, Swole Parkway National Bank, which was the black bank here. Blue Valley Federal Savings and Loan was my first real job. I worked as a construction manager for CNC Excavating and Construction Company. And then my life was changing. I got my second divorce and decided if I'm going to change my life, it's going to be exactly what I want it to be. So I started teaching. I knew I never wanted to teach in public schools. So I've always taught on the college level. So I had a 28-year teaching career. My goal was to teach on all the continents but the frozen ones. And except for Australia, I have done that. So, it's been a storied life and one that I have truly, truly enjoyed the experience and expect to have more wonderful experiences.
So now let's go to the Black Archives. I You came on my radar when we were over in the Lincoln Building across the street, and Dr. Marge had her show on our network, and she brought you on, and I think you were talking about Langston Hughes or something, and because I didn't know who you were, and I then Jim Watts, we were out at Howard Corney's house filming him, and on the way back or something, Watts said, "Yeah, Dr. Carmen used to be out here with CNC excavating, and Mr. Corney was a big man in construction here in Kansas City as it relates to black ownership." And you came on a couple of times over there, and you landed this uh, position over at the Black Archives, which I think was a godsend for the community in general, because
Thank
I had been critical of the archives for at least a decade and a half, because I knew Horace personally and was involved with the archives from a business side, and it just totally eroded. And I must say, you have done a yeoman's job to put the archives back where it should have never left the prestigious position it had in our community. And with
you.
that said, I was talking to Dr. Marge the other night, and I said I was very proud of this. This was like 2 years ago. Watts gave me a ticket to come to this thing y'all have over there at UMKC, and it was packed. It was first class, and it has. I'm saying you were fresh fresh breath of air in that institution, and I want to pair you with uh, Bob over at the Negro League. Both of y'all have brought our institutions back to where they should be, and now I'd like for you to talk about what it was like you rebuilding uh, the archives.
Well, I appreciate you coupling me with Bob Kendrick because he's a genius. He is really genius. And I tell him, I just want to rub some of that Midas touch off of you so that we can get that money inflow coming in here and that community commitment to helping this place grow. And he has been masterful at doing that. So he has been a good guide and mentor. And I appreciate watching the work that he's done down here. When they asked me to take this job, I had a wonderful career as a college professor. I had just come back from People's Republic of China. I taught at the Central China Normal University there. And when I came back, my son and I opened a publishing house. And when they asked me to come here, and Black Archives is in chaos. We need you to fix it. And I'm going like, no, I like working at home in my pajamas. And the third call, they said, just come in. So I came in and I met with Taylor Fields, who was the board chair. And initially, I was disappointed. We had an appointment, uh, and I was here. No one else was here in the entire building. And he was late. And after waiting 15 minutes, I said, he gets 5 minutes. I know he's busy. I'm busy too. And I'm out of here. And he showed up like within three. So I think that's part of fate. But when I saw what was here, the permanent exhibit is beautiful. It tells the story of the building of Black Kansas City. And there were thousands and thousands of pictures and documents up here in the collections area of the archives. And the potential is just um, outstanding. The stories that could be told, the histories that could be saved. So I bought into it. And when I started, it was, you described it quite aptly. It was in disarray. We stepped over boxes. We couldn't understand the filing system. Being an academic, I'm used to Dewey Decimal System and those kinds of filing systems so that you can track things. And that wasn't working here. And then I was told, well, that's the way Horace did it. Well, I know that Horace went to the Smithsonian and took classes. I know that he was trained. I didn't know Horace. I met him at an exhibit that he had at the fire station, but he was so enthused about that exhibition that you had to love it. So I could, some of the folks who work here keep saying the building's haunted. And it could be, but I think it's all with good spirits. It's with those positive strides that Horace was trying to make. It's with all of those people who show up in our exhibitions. And because we don't want this to be an I've already seen it kind of place, then we have a rotating gallery. And every month there's a new exhibit in there. We partner with the Equal Justice Initiative, the Just Mercy folks, Brian Stevenson. And we have the only gallery right now outside of Birmingham that has an exhibit dedicated to victims of racial murder. Horace Peterson found the home where formerly enslaved women lived. So we have Aunt Lucy's cabin here. We Lightning Mitchell came into my office, didn't know him, and said that women's professional basketball started here in Kansas City. Well, the spring and summer league did, but not completely professional basketball. So anyway, we didn't have the money, so he paid for the exhibit. Then we had some retired professional female basketball players who came in and said, "This is beautiful, but it doesn't tell the whole story." And so my response was, I'd love to tell the whole story. I just can't afford to. So they built the panels that show the progression of women's professional basketball from 1931 when it officially started. We have Heritage Hall. We're trying, we have a gift shop and a coffee shop, a cafe. And we have two recording studios because there's an old saying that the best stories are in the cemetery. And we don't want that to be the truth. We want to gather those stories while we can and preserve them and share them. So we have a big oral history project and projects that we've been doing here. We've partnered with wonderful groups like Magic. Preston Washington is head of Magic. And right now, and I forgot, Midwest something, genealogy, something, something.
Right. I've seen the genealogy partnership per se. I knew a little bit about that. This is what I credit you with for the most part. You have been able to create coalitions and partnerships, as you were saying, money, money, money. The money, you can't do what you need to do and without the money. And boy, you dated yourself with people like me when you said the Dewey Decimal System. Because that's what I was taught when I was little boy.
Yeah. Like there are some real systems already in place. We don't have to create those. We just need to follow them.
What is your latest project?
For personally,
Yes.
I'm finishing a book. I hope to get it finished in the next few weeks, months. I mean, the name of it is A Mother's Still, Still, Voices of Rebellion in Antebellum America. Every single semester of the 28 years that I taught, and I taught African American studies and English, a student would say, I wouldn't have took that if I'd been a slave. And I would tell them, yes, you would have. You would have taken whatever you had to take to survive, because if they killed you, they won. But what makes you think they took it? So we talked about rebellions, and I've been a mother since I was a teenager. And I was like, if you don't own your own body, what does it feel like to have children? So those are the stories I'm looking for. And
Boy,
I've been
that's a
gathering some
hell of
really
a
powerful.
story. That's a Boy, that just hit me upside my head. Uh, when you visualize, and boy, they needed some psychiatrists back then badly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to have no power to stop somebody. One of my favorite stories, and it's in the book, is about a woman who was on Sapelo Island. She was the cook, and her owner had promised her, she had one daughter, that he would never sell her daughter. Well, he puts her in a boat, sends her over to Charleston to get some goods. And when she comes back, she can't find her daughter. And nobody will tell her what happened. So finally, one of her friends said, Massa sold her. And she didn't cry, she didn't scream, she didn't holler, but she was the cook. And every day she ground up a little bit of glass in his food. And so the doctor came and tried to treat him, couldn't figure out what it was. He thought he'd been voodooed. So he called in the two-headed man to see if he could undo the spell. And every day she put in a little bit more glass till he died. That's resistance. That if you can't do anything else, find a way to resist. And that's what she did until he died. That's a power story. And those are the kinds of stories I'm trying to include in my book. I'm trying to defray that poor enslaved people because they did find community, they found families, and they found some kind of power. Of course, they were restricted, they were property. But we do know of Demarcasi and all of these other people who said, enough's enough. We know
How do you
about.
feel about the educational system when it comes to teaching our history and how important that is for self-esteem, among other things that one, as you maturing, growing up,
Yeah.
affects our youth, people of color.
I keep telling people that I think the reason we have so much more black on black crime is because those folks don't know how beautiful, how powerful they were. When we had Black is Beautiful, when we had the Black Panthers leading the way, when we had Buy Black, you saw more of a strength and a power in our communities. We saw people like Muhammad Ali duking it out. People would duke it out in the streets, but they didn't just shoot people arbitrarily to keep from having to get hit. There's a bunch of cowards. But I think that we have to somehow get back to that, get back to the power and to the beauty and to the strength that's inherent in Blackness. When you have the state of Texas remove all references to enslavement, and we have Juneteenth because the enslaved people in Texas weren't told that they were free, history is being revisioned and revised and restructured and retold and not in the truth. So we got to get back to the truth of our people and our power.
Well, I want to my mind be lucid, Dr. Carmen. I thought about this last night and almost slipped. what did you think about Malcolm X 100th anniversary yesterday?
I wasn't able to attend any of the events. I had some family issues going on, but we've got to remember Malcolm. We have got to remember the power and the straightforwardness. If nothing else, you have to admire the truth in his statements. He didn't backwash, you know, he didn't try to place himself or the nation above everybody else. He told the truth. And that's what I respect the most about Malcolm X.
I think when they labeled him our prince, that was Apple League.
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
that was a title that anyone that knew anything about Malcolm, how elegant he was, and how truthful he was as it relates to our community and what we need in order for us to get the respect. Uh, we have to really understand that nobody's going to give it to us. That story of resistance is where Cascade Media is that we have to become more organized with a strategy that makes sense, that will help change policies and change our financial position. We have the numbers, but we have to first be able to come together. Uh, in closing, what would you have to say to our community overall?
You know, we stay busy here at the Black Archives because people bring it to us. You know, they tell us what it is they need to know more about what's going on in their realities that they need explanations on. And on July 26th, we're having a Stop the Violence basketball tournament. This will be our third year to have this, and we get young people. And so far, we advertising for boys and girls, but just young men are coming. But we would love to have some girls teams here too. But they get a day where they can come and be with people that they don't know and find out that they have a common reality and that all of them want to stop violence in their personal realities, in their lives, in their neighborhoods. Recently, still breaks my heart because it was just last week. My niece was killed on her 21st birthday by ex-boyfriend that she had a order of protection out against. She got order of protection on Monday. He shot and killed her on Tuesday. So we're planning for this fall to save our children. We need to have people come in and understand that there are so many of them. We have Cameron Lamb exhibit here. We partner with the prosecutor's office. So we have that. Ryan Stokes, his mother, an attorney and community activist, have come in and recorded his story, and we show that on kiosk. But we have so many innocent people like Amari Hughes, my cousin, who was tortured for 5 days before she was murdered, and her body dumped on her mother's driveway. These are not isolated stories. They're becoming all too common. So we have to save our community. We have to save our kids. We have to save our history. We have to save those things that make us proud and that make us human and that make us care and be compassionate and want to do other things for our community. When you talk about uh, building a financial future for the community, that's got to happen. And Cascade Media is a wonderful vehicle for getting the word out and getting those stories told. And we have other people who are working towards it, but we've got to get it done. Um, when Layla was killed last week, it was like, I cannot just say that's too bad. This has got to stop. I've got to do something about it. So I brought it here to the archives and to the staff, said, we have got to do some sessions for grieving parents. We have to do some sessions for girls on how to protect yourself, how to get out. We have got to do some sessions for young men and boys and how do you protect yourself from this. So we've got to be an institution that not just preserves the history, and remember, history is today, not just preserve this history, but also works to correct it and to help it and to make sure that our people can keep going. So that's what we're doing here.
Well, I think that's appropriate to end on. And as I always say, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.